You know, if a random tourist guide comes up to you and offers you like the best adventure of your lifetime and he looks sketchy as hell doing it, then maybe you might want to skip on that one because you might not come back from it. Welcome back, guys. I just watched the movie called Jungle, and before I even start, I just want to point out that I had a lot of nostalgia watching this film, especially during the first 20 minutes because of where it's being shot, which is in Bolivia. Now you ask, why did it bring nostalgia? And it's mainly because I'm from Ecuador. Yeah, I'm not from Bolivia, but I'm from Ecuador, and where they shot the movie and the place that they were in Bolivia, it was like the mountainous region and also part of the Andes where it's always cold and like you see a lot of mountains around you and stuff like that. So being from Ecuador and from that part of town, it reminded me a lot of when I was living back then. And even some of the stuff that they captured in this film was like on point. Like there's a time where they're even eating like street ice cream, and they even nailed that to a T because the stuff that you see in the actual movie, I can actually 100% say that, yeah, that's actually the culture from Bolivia. Because if you think about it, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Peru too, they're all pretty close. And if you know you live along the mountains or like the Sierra or you know the mountainous regions, then you're most likely going to see the same culture all around those three countries. But anyways, guys, aside from that, the scenery in this movie was amazing. I really loved it. Also, when we get into the jungle itself, they use some pretty cool shots to show us, you know, where they are, how they're stranded, and all that stuff. But anyways, this movie is based on the true story of Yossi, who is played by Daniel Radcliffe. He's out for adventure. He's in Bolivia. He meets like these two other tourists along the way. Some of them are like famous for like their photographies and stuff like that, and their names are like Marcus and Kevin. Kevin being the photographer, Marcus being more like a medic kind of. And I don't know where like Carl comes along the way, just being super sketchy, like I said in my intro, just offering like the best adventure of a lifetime, which mainly he offers, you know, that he can take Yossi and the other two to like out into the jungle and like meet like this lost Indian tribe that's like just like hidden out there. And the crazy thing about it is that it literally just comes out of the blue, and he tells them like, hey, you know, I can literally show you this. He saw that, you know, there were tourists and all that stuff, so he took advantage of like Yossi, Marcus, and Kevin. And honestly, it's one trip that they wish they would have never gone on. So if you already know the story of Yossi and you know what happens on this trip, then you'll probably know what happens in the ending, obviously, because they don't change anything at all. They stick to the actual true story. But basically the movie itself is kind of divided into two parts, and it's like 2 hours long. The first part mainly being them like getting into the jungle all together, you know, like starting to like cause problems between each other because some of them are like fatigued quicker than the other. They start getting to some like health issues, or you know, sometimes you know their feet are like hurting and they look just gross. And then the second half is, you know, when they kind of all split up and we're like mainly focused on Yossi struggling for survival. Daniel Radcliffe in this movie delivers an amazing performance. I mean, like he got dirty. Everything that he was doing just looked brutal and very realistic. Like literally the second half of the movie, he carries it all the way till the end just by himself because we're just stuck with him, and it's very like interesting watching him like struggle through this entire journey of survival. Now, like I said, the movie itself kind of does split up into two parts because the first part, you know, we are introduced to these characters, which I really enjoyed because we get background from each one of them, except Carl. Carl is like shady, and I think like they did that on purpose because of his character, and actually because it's based on the true story. So even in real life, we didn't know much about him until the very end. So in a way, the way that we study this character, once we get to know them, it's very interesting, and I really like some of the dialogue that they had between each other because they're all from different parts of the country. But then in the second half of the movie, I feel like we enter like cliche territory for a survival movie because we start seeing, you know, a bunch of flashbacks that I feel like were unnecessary, especially because we get introduced to like the parents and all that stuff, and I feel like they already covered a lot of the bases on that while they were traveling and talking amongst each other. But I felt like a lot of the time whenever we would shy away from the actual like brutality that Daniel Radcliffe is going, we go into like a flashback, and it doesn't help me understand, you know, why, you know, how he's suffering and stuff like that. And sometimes during the film they use like cheap jump scares, which aren't that bad, but at the same time, you know, it kind of like shies away from what I'm actually watching. Like, and it has to do some stuff with like the jaguar, some of the stuff that he's like imagining while he's on this trip, because I mean he's dehydrated. But like I said, guys, aside from those little tiny problems that I have with the film, Daniel Radcliffe literally carries the entire film because he does a great job whenever he's allowed to do his thing on screen. I feel like some of the stuff that was building up suspense didn't really work sometimes because of the way that they would like end the scene and like I don't know where transition into the next morning. I felt like, you know, maybe I wanted to see a little bit more of that. And at the same time, I felt like some of the dialogue between the characters themselves, I feel like it was just a little rough around the edges, but nothing too bad to like distract me the entire time. So I would recommend watching this film, guys. It's a very entertaining survival story. I really liked it. Daniel Radcliffe, like I said, does an amazing job in this film. Another thing too, maybe the movie could have been a little bit shorter, but that's just me, you know, 2 hours long of a survival story. Sounds about right, but you know, since I said some of the stuff that was in there, like the flashbacks and stuff like that, felt unnecessary for me. So I feel like maybe it should have been a little bit shorter, maybe like 10-15 minutes long. But other than that, guys, I really recommend watching it. So I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 5. Guys, go ahead and leave any other survival movies out there that are based on true stories in the comments. I want to check those out. And also, before I go, I am going to start doing like quick reviews where I'll like maybe talk about 3 films in under like 5 minutes or 6 minutes or so, because I've watched a lot of films this year and I just haven't had time to like actually get behind camera and review them. So I'm probably going to start doing like 3 movies in one video, and they can literally be any movie from this year, and I'll give my overall thoughts about those films. So stay tuned for those videos. And if you guys are new to my videos, also make sure to subscribe and hit the like button, and make sure to hit the little bell at the bottom, because for some reason YouTube doesn't like to notify people. Makes it weird, right? But guys, that's it for me. Until next time, stay tuned.